Come on, Rockfin. Come on, Rockfin. As usual, I'm waiting on you. Waiting on Rockfin. Any day now, Rockfin. Okay, Rockfin. Yeah.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sab's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there for the roundtable, which will be December 4th. And you can catch me here on Tuesday and Thursday and Sunday. Welcome back, guys. We have quite an interesting show. We have a serious story thrown in the mix tonight, but we have a really strange and bizarre story as well. Tonight's theme is mask off, ladies and gentlemen. And I think now is the time that you are starting to see the masks are starting to fall off. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And let's go, fam. Is everybody ready for Thanksgiving? Everybody ready? Everybody got all your ingredients? I just got a couple of things today. Whatever you do, don't wait till the day before Thanksgiving. I've done that before, and that was horrible. Don't ever do that. Don't do it. Especially if it's a key ingredient. But I am ready. Let's give a couple shout outs to people in the chat, and we'll go ahead and dive in, ladies and gents. What's going on? Go Artist says, hi, early bird fam. What's up to Go Artist? Greetings, Blockbuster says, hi. Shout out to Real Talk. Almost at 300K, Sabby, doing the damn thing. Whoop, whoop. The documentary was fire. Congrats. Don't forget your YouTube plaque. Hello, Eric, Corey in chat. And Free Palestine. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Thank you. Yes, I'll have some time over the Thanksgiving holidays to finally get that, put that plaque set up there. I got to move some things around back there to fit it there. That's why it's been taking me so long to figure all that out. Shout out to Lauren, says Trump's approval rating has fallen to -17 in the latest Fox News poll. Only 15% say he has helped the economy. Yeah, you know what's interesting about all this? In a way, because the Democratic Party did not win re-election, it basically is, I think a mask is falling off there for the American people, right? Where people swung one way because the economy was a disaster and then decided to swing the other way because the economy was a disaster. And I think what people are starting to see is that, hey, the economy is bad under the Republicans who are in power right now, and the economy was bad under the Democrats when they were in power. Maybe it's both of them, right? So that's one thing I will say about that I think more people are starting to see. Maybe they just serve big money interests, which is the point that I've been trying to get across in particular with this show. Shout out to Randy, says, good, pretty dreary here in upstate New York. Afternoon, Sabby, and all my revolutionary comrades. Yeah, it's pretty gray here today, too. Shout out to Miguel, says, peace. That's why I wore the yellow. Like sometimes when it's like, a lot of times people like to wear bright colors like in the summer, but we have long winters up here. So like I like to wear bright colors in the winter too, kind of brighten it up a little bit around here. Shout out to Skylar, says, happy Sunday, Sabby and Co. Happy Sunday, everyone. Greetings, Lawrence, says, hands off Venezuela. Indeed. Shout out to DC Fairbanks, says, hey, everybody, what's going on? Greetings, OW, says, I'm here for Nick Fuentes School's A Pregnant Chick. That's not the store. That's not the store we're covering, but welcome. Shout out to New York Varsity, says, hey, Sab, Ravens won. Let's go. Patriots won today, too. The Patriots, I don't know if everybody is into football, but I definitely am. And the Patriots have totally had a rebrand this time around. Like, this seems like a completely different team than the team that we had last year. We are doing phenomenally, right? So we're really kicking ass out there, and I hope we just keep at it. Shout out to Hannah, says, Sunday with Sab. Greetings, Sebastian, says, hey, y'all, happy Sunday. Shout out to Cheetah, says, hi, Sabby and everyone. Greetings, Fashion City, says, America first, not Israel. Greetings, C. Shada, says, hey, Sabby, hey, C. Shada. Shout out to Sunchild, says, evening from the UK, folks. What is up in the UK? What's up over there? How you guys doing? Shout out to Bill, says, let me see if I can guess who Cockroach Man is in the thumbnail. That story is crazy, you guys. That's a really weird one. Shout out to Kill Your E. Grorger, says, let doobie doobie do this. Well, we'll go ahead and doobie doobie do it. And greetings to Zalippa, says, hello, hello, hello. Shout out to, of course, my producer and comrade Eric T. Red, says, onward and we shall go. We shall go onward. Let's do the damn thing. And greetings to everyone else in the chat. Do want to go ahead and dive in. We have 6 stories to cover tonight. We do have a surprise story that we're starting off with first. So let's go ahead and give that shout out to the Sabby patrons, and then we'll go ahead and dive right in, shall we? Let's do it. All right. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. You're keeping the lights on around me. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. We have Ultimate, Sabinators, there's Sabsters. Yes, there are. And don't forget about those Sabbies. They be out there doing the damn thing as well. And of course, we also have a group called Members. All of their names are featured here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there throughout the show on the ticker. I do want to take this time to give a shout out to a new Sabby patron. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for Camilla Soul. Thank you and welcome. I always love the Sunday show. Because it's a different type of vibe. It's like we're ending the weekend, we're starting off the week. So I try not to do stories on Sunday that are too heavy. And I tried to add in a little bit of humor here if I can. So let's see what we're going to talk about tonight, ladies and gents. Let's go ahead and show you that thumbnail, folks. Okay. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing Nick Fuentes versus Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer has been in the news quite a bit recently. And now this one, he has brought himself back into the news because Chuck Schumer is trying to, condemn Nick Fuentes. I think this is the first time I have seen a politician actually bring forth some type of legislation to condemn a podcaster. And we're going to get into all of that. And I'm going to tell you what I think that is all really about and who that actually benefits. So we'll take I don't want to say a deep dive, but a mini deep dive into that, ladies and gentlemen. So pay attention to what is happening, folks. We're also going to discuss Killer Mike is schooling Bill Maher. So Bill Maher, I've said this before. He says a lot of things like on his show, and oftentimes he says things that are just incorrect. He makes a lot of false statements, and Killer Mike really schooled Bill Maher, not just in regards to what's happening here in the US, but on foreign policy. So Killer Mike is a rapper, but he's also very much politically involved. And he's also aware of what's going on around the world. And he is one of those entertainers that has been out there protesting, doing activism, and organizing within his community even before he was a rapper. So this is a big one we're going to dive into, and I have a couple things I want to show you about that as well. We're also discussing this story has gone viral. The woman there in the yellow square next to Bill Maher, she was kicked out of a hospital while she was in labor. So we're going to dive into that story tonight. We're going to talk a little bit here about what the experience can be like for Black women who are pregnant in this country. This is not the first time we've seen stories like this, but her story is going viral. And I'm going to tell you what happened to the staff at that hospital as well. We're also going to discuss, we are doing part 1 of our deep dive series about the Israel myth. So we are going to start part 1 today, and we are connecting this to the biblical Israel. So we are going to compare the modern day Israel to the biblical Israel. This is part 1, and we're going to basically make our way all the way up to the rapture. So we're going to be debunking some things tonight on this show. We're also going to discuss Cockroach Man. What in the hell happened in New Mexico? What happened in New Mexico? Jesus Christ. I never thought. We got some crazy stories coming our way. Someone sent me this story and I said, this cannot be real. I was like, this has to be a joke, but it's not. We're going to get into what that cockroach told that man. And last but not least, we have a surprising story, a bonus one, I guess I should say. And that is the story about what happened with X over the weekend, this new feature that they launched, and how it is apparently getting them into hot water. We're going to get into all of that, ladies and gentlemen. The theme again tonight is mask off. So this is a mask off moment. And I think we're going to do it by starting off with that bonus story about what happened with Elon Musk X. I still like to call it Twitter, because people are like, X is just so, still like to call it Twitter. If you haven't had a chance to do so, ladies and gentlemen, please smash that like button. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's get into the first story. Again, the theme is mask off. Over the weekend, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, decided to roll out a new feature, and it caused a lot of controversy, especially with the Homeland Security account on X. Let's go ahead and get into the article, and then I'm going to show you what appeared on Twitter over the weekend. Elon Musk X rolls out a feature that shows users' country of origin, then suddenly removes it. We'll get into why that was removed. Let's make this bigger here for the people in the back. So here we go. If you were perusing Elon Musk X late Friday night, you might have seen a brand new, highly anticipated feature roll out. X visitors were able to go to any user's profile page, click on their join date to view a new About This Account page, which revealed exactly which nation an account was based. Now, this is different from the usual location detail on the X profile page, as it showed exactly where an account was posting from based on their IP address, not what their user input themselves. So basically, to make a long story short, on X, there is that option where you share your location. So like mine says, like either says Boston or Massachusetts, something like that. But what this feature did over the weekend, it gave you the opportunity to, okay, well, let me go ahead and let me click on the join date. So the join date is the date that that account started their Twitter account. So 2021, 2022, et cetera. You guys get the idea. And when you clicked on that, it now gave this new feature, which was the About This Account page. And when you look at that new feature about this account, it showed people which nation that account was tied to. So I'm going to give you just a second here to make you think for a second. What do you think people started to notice? I'll tell you. People started to notice that some of these Twitter accounts that said that their location was in said place was not actually where these accounts were based. There were some accounts that said they were American accounts, said they were based in New York, California, or whatever. And then the About page showed that they were actually based elsewhere. Now, this is very important when we get to the Homeland Security account, because that is the reason I think that this feature was immediately shut down, because what people noticed about the Homeland Security account. Let's continue on here. The country of origin disclosure was broadly lauded among X user base. Then suddenly, without notice, the country of origin was removed from the About This Account page just hours after it made its late night debut. Funny how that happens, isn't it? Mashable reported last month that the feature was on the way. X's head of product, this person's name is important, we'll get to them in a second as well, Nikita Beer, originally tested the feature, rolling it out on his own account as a demo of how it would work before it was visible to any X user accounts. It is unclear exactly why X removed the feature shortly after rolling it out to the public. However, Beer replied to some X users who were reporting that their About This account was showing inaccurate information, which may be the reason why the feature was taken down. So I think this is the reason. So shout out to Gen X Girl, because she kept a whole thread on this. So here's a mask off moment here for Homeland Security and for Elon Musk X. So X activated locations last night, which showed US government accounts like DHS opened and operating from Israel. Then 20 minutes later, X deactivated the feature, and today, government accounts are exempt from the location feature. Let's take a look at the screenshots here. I'm so glad that people grabbed screenshots of this. So if you use that new tool and you clicked on the join date, you would see something like this that appeared, which is the About This Account page. And it shows the date that it was joined. It says Homeland Security, DHS Gov. Yes, this is the actual page. And it says July 2008 in Israel. That's weird. Account based in Tel Aviv, Israel. 16 username changes since July 2008. Connected via Israel App Store. Now, that's right, Vegas. What the fuck? Exactly. This is the bombshell that had everyone like screaming over the weekend. Now, pay close attention. Again, 2008 in Israel. So according to this new feature on X, the Homeland Security account joined Twitter in 2008 in Israel. Let's look at another screenshot here. Here's another one. Homeland Security. This is the verified, right? Date joined July 2008, verified December 2009. Notice now when you click on that tool to see About This account, now it no longer shows Israel. It no longer shows the country of origin. And this is what Gen X Girl was talking about. All of a sudden now, Nikita is saying, well, we decided to remove government accounts from this because we wanted them to be secure. We wanted them to be protected. I'll show you what they said in just a second. But so it's okay for the other people not to be protected? and not to be secure? Now, there are a number of reasons for this. Like, people are coming in and some people are saying, well, it could be because of a VPN. If you're using a VPN, it could show that you're based somewhere that you're not, or it could have been because of travel, etc. I don't know. But that is very, very much concerning. Let's continue on here because she made a whole thread about it. This is from last night showing DHS was opened and operating from Israel. So she is sharing Simon Dixon's video here. Screen recording shows the Department of Homeland Security is based out of Israel. Is this why the location feature was abruptly removed? Let's go in here. I'll make this bigger for you so you guys can see the video. So as you can see, we're looking at the screen recording here. There's Homeland Security. Click on the join date. There it is. There it is. So just so you guys can see, no one photoshopped this. It was right there. And now if you try to check this, this is no longer appearing. Everybody pay attention to what is happening, folks. So you see, Nikita and the crew didn't think about this when they decided to roll out this feature. So they showed you different times here. All right, let's come back out here and then we're going to show you. Let's go back to the thread. She's sharing this one here as well. This is Harrison Smith. The cybersecurity of the Five Eyes Nation is managed out of Israel. So here's another one. Like what the heck?
Netanyahu's cyber chief arrested in Vegas child predator sting, then sent home for collection service from that data collection spy agencies or whatever else they can get their hands on the world over. So let's go to clip number 14. This is the ADL CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt, right? This guy who, and again, I mean, over the weekend, like video after video, where you keep saying we when referring to Israel and being like, I shouldn't say we, I should say Israel. It's like, but you did say we, and we get it. No, we get it. So again, the ADL, just literally a foreign operation in our country, training our FBI, advising every big tech company as to what's acceptable and what's not. And gee, it turns out talking about Israeli pedophiles, not acceptable. Who knew? National security depends on it, I guess. Let's go to clip number 14. Here's Jonathan Greenblatt, Jewish supremacist scumbag in Israel, explaining all of this to us. Clip 14.
You must take this deadly seriously. Pushing extremists off Wikipedia might not seem equal to the challenge of pushing Hezbollah north of the Litani River. Capturing TikTok might seem less meaningful than holding on to Mount Hermon. Libelous tweets certainly might seem less deadly than missiles from Yemen. But this is urgent because the next war will be decided based on how Israel and its allies perform online as much as offline.
See? So we were sounding the alarm like back in the day when they came after TikTok, and we said this isn't just about TikTok and people need to pay attention to like what's really happening here, how they want that control there over social media. If we go back to the thread here, let's just go back to her thread, make sure I'm in the right. Let me go back. I think I lost my spot. Eric, can we, here we go. Here, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So if we go back to her thread, because like I said, she was keeping a pretty detailed spot about this. The 20-year U.S.-Israel Defense Partnership Agreement includes plans to streamline the above reporting from Harrison across Five Eyes by adding Israel to the National Technology and Industrial Base, the NTIB. I have an article coming out about it soon, but it's a disaster of a plan. So it's true. We don't currently have an alliance with Israel, but they are planning to fix that with a new bill, the U.S. Israel Defense Partnership Act. Now, this involves, of course, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, robotics, automation. If we look into what it says here, it says focusing on joint research and development of emerging technologies like AI, cybersecurity, and quantum computing with Israel. So let's go back to what we were saying about that Homeland Security account. If I can come up here. Again, says that it was joined X in 2008 in Israel. So this and there's more. Let's continue on. Because Nikita tried to come up with all these different reasons, right? So Gen Z girl said, X is saying locations for the gray checks were never activated, and the video and screenshots circulating are fake. The video above shows the X URL for the DHS page. So I don't know, but this is his response. So let's see what Nikita said. And Nikita, who works for X, said, this is fake news. Location was not available on gray check account at any point. Furthermore, the DHS has only shown IPs from the United States account creation. She goes on to say, if in fact this is incorrect, then X needs to fix Grok and activate all account locations to stop the rumors. But it is a fact that DHS lists an office in Tel Aviv on their website. So until you all address it and become transparent, lots will doubt. So as you can see here, there is a Tel Aviv branch. And again, we can go back to that video right here. So again, this is a video. This is not a screenshot. Homeland Security, here's a gray check. Watch this. Watch it, watch it. Clicked on the join date. Bam. So everybody's talking, folks. Everybody's talking about this on X. People are like, what the hell is going on? I want to show you a little bit more. Let's go here, because we want to get into the VPN factor as well. So Terry shared what Grok said. I clicked the Grok button on your first post just to see what it would say. And along with agreeing with you, it added some disturbing things. So everyone pay attention to this. X swiftly removed the feature for government accounts 20 minutes after rollout. It removed it for government accounts 20 minutes after the rollout. So it was there. It was available for the government accounts. So Nikita is lying. It goes on to say here, exempting them to prevent terrorist attacks. So it's okay for them to protect those government accounts, but screw the rest of us. You see what I'm saying? This is what I was saying before about the increased surveillance. This is what I was telling you guys. Like, your information is not private. So they're not trying to prevent any of the other accounts on Twitter from any type of attack, but they want to prevent the government account. So it's okay to protect the government, but not the people. While product head Nikita Beer denied the display ever occurred for verified profiles, asserting DHS IPs originate solely from the US, though user captured evidence, including direct URL, challenges this. That's from Grok. This incident ties into ongoing U.S.-Israel security ties, including the proposed H.R. 1229 bill for $355 million annual funding to integrate Israel into the U.S. national technology and industrial base, potentially expanding Five Eyes intelligence sharing amid debates over sovereignty and tech influence. So what this means is that Grok actually supported what Gen X girl said and showed, not what Nikita said. And this shows you again, once again, the relationship of the US government and Israeli intelligence. They are working as one. We already know Israel spies on us. Ted Cruz admitted that himself in his interview with Tucker Carlson. But imagine what they'll be able to do now. They're working as one. So when I told you the US government was captured, this is what I was talking about. Now let's get to the VPN issue. Solomon pointed this out. Solomon said this shows what we've seen over the past 24 hours and just how poorly informed some people are. The account based in section updates according to your travel history. I believe it refreshes every 30 days, which explains the delay. For people who never traveled, this might be surprising, but visiting and experiencing the world is actually a good thing. And he's referring to Jackson Hinkle's account. So Jackson Hinkle was called out when this feature rolled out. Justin Hart said Jackson Hinkle is a fraud. At one point, he claimed to be in Southern California. VPN or not, this commie is a fake. What his account showed is that he was based in Burkina Faso. But according to Solomon, he traveled to Burkina Faso a couple of weeks ago. So that's another thing. Also, when we talk about VPNs. So that's something to keep in mind. But what is weird is for Nikita to sit up there and deny that those gray checked accounts weren't even included in that, when we can look at the video that was shown and see that that was not the case. That's ridiculous. So what is Nikita trying to hide? And then I want to show you this part here, because Gen X Girl did challenge Nikita. X is Nikita getting slammed by community notes for claiming the government account locations aren't disclosed to prevent acts of terrorism. So this is community notes, which is a feature on X, telling Nikita, who works for X, that Nikita is wrong, that Nikita is lying to you. DHS lists their Tel Aviv office on their website. As I said before, if you want to address the issue, make all locations public. Otherwise, people will continue to doubt. And let's show the screenshots here. Again, it's Nikita saying we don't show location on any gray checked accounts, prevent acts of terrorism against government leaders. They do that to prevent that. And here's a community note. The country level location of government leaders is already public knowledge, even when traveling. In fact, it is often part of their official title, e.g., President of the United States. We'll go to the other one here. Again, here's that screenshot of the U.S. Tel Aviv branch. So yes, there is an office in Tel Aviv. So Nikita is getting blasted by community notes. Nikita works at X. So this is terrible. I wonder if Nikita's going to keep their job, because this is really bad. So I'm going to keep it real with you. The reason why they shut that down was because of that video, those videos that were going around. People are like, yo, look at these accounts. It says they're based in such and such. And they didn't just do this with Homeland Security. People looked up, like I said, they looked up Jackson Hinkle's page. They looked up other users' pages. Some of these accounts that had names like Native American fighter, people would use that tool and see that that account was actually based in another country, right? Like it was stuff like that. Like people were like, oh, I was curious about this account, so let me check this thing. The point is this, ladies and gentlemen, this is a mask off moment, right? Because it shows you just how closely tied the US government is to Israel. It also is a warning about this, which I've said before with some of these other accounts that people have also called out. You don't know who these people are. A lot of the accounts on X don't even have a person's face. Sometimes it's just like an anime character or just a symbol of sorts. And even then, if you see a face, you still don't know for certain that that is who you are talking to. This is the thing I try to warn people about, these online accounts. So be careful with some of the messages and things that you see online from these accounts. You don't know that these people are who they say that they are. It has also been reported that Israel has a number of bot accounts on social media. So you think you're arguing with a real person. A lot of times you're not. You don't know these people. But what we do know is that at some point, DHS was associated with Israel. It says the account was created in Israel in 2008. And Nikita wants you to pretend as though this didn't happen. When rolling out a new feature goes wrong. Mask off moment, ladies and gentlemen. Mask off moment. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Chip. Thank you, Sabby, for brightening up my day. Oh, you are welcome, Chip. Shout out to David for the super sticker. Thank you so much, David. Skylar said, see, we haven't been infiltrated by Israel. We are Israel. Hope this helps clear up any confusion. There you go. Simon said 50 states, 1 Israel. Yep. Thank you, Shaz. Hey, Sabby, congrats on the documentary. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shaz. And thank you, 1975. ADL and APAC are Israel. So does everybody see it now? There it is. All right. We're going to keep this show going. We're going to go on to the next story. Again, another mask off moment, ladies and gentlemen. And this one involves a pregnant woman. And God knows if there's anyone watching, any of you watching that have kids, or maybe you are pregnant right now, really need to pay attention to this story. A woman went to the hospital in Texas while she was in labor. So she went to the hospital to give birth, only to then be turned away by staff at the hospital. No, it's not a movie. No, it's not a script. This happened in real life, and this is not an uncommon situation. This woman's pain was doubted. Let's go ahead and get into it. The woman and the husband had an interview on CNN. Check this out.
First of all, no mother should suffer at one of the most important moments of her life, when her baby is born. I think that's why this story resonated with so many people this week. In a moment, you're going to hear the story directly from Mercedes Wells herself. She showed up at a hospital in Indiana expecting to get some help to deliver her baby. But after several hours, she was escorted out of the hospital. Her family recorded as she was leaving.
This is the video that's been going viral on social media. So she was turned away by the hospital. Again, she's in labor, and they didn't believe her. They didn't believe her pain was real. And so they told her to leave. Turned away at the hospital. So her husband's with her, and she's getting into the vehicle here.
The family says 8 minutes after leaving the hospital, a baby girl was born. The hospital says they're now taking action. In a new statement from Franciscan Health Crown Point President and CEO Raymond Grady, he announced that first, the physician and nurse involved in Mercedes' care are no longer employed by the hospital. He also said cultural competency training has now been mandated for all labor and delivery staff, and all pregnant patients leaving the labor and delivery unit will be examined by a physician before they leave the hospital.
Pause. So you mean to tell me this type of training wasn't done before? These weren't requirements? This is the president and the CEO of the hospital. It was Indiana. Sorry, I think I said Texas. I think that Texas was another story. See, this has happened before. Indiana. Sorry about that. So they weren't trained before? See, even Raymond Grady is being very cautious here with his language because he doesn't want to say what this is really about. Let's continue.
Brady called the videos difficult to watch, and he wrote, "We must fix what failed in our hospital so that no one experiences what happened to Mercedes Wells." Mercedes Wells is with us now, along with her husband, Leon Wells, and their attorney, Cannon Lambert. Welcome to you all. Mercedes, let me start with your reaction to the announcement from the hospital that the doctor and nurse directly involved with your care are out.
First of all, it took a while, to get them to respond to us and to acknowledge what the facility had done to me.
And when they say that the doctor involved in your care is out, I read that you don't even know who this doctor is. You never met a doctor.
Exactly. Never seen her face. No doctor ever spoke to or came into my room.
So let's start at the beginning here. It's about midnight. Your contractions start. Tell me the story as you arrive at the hospital.
As I get to the hospital, they come down about 10 minutes later. First of all, I called ahead. I called maybe 20 minutes ahead before we got there. And when we got there, I still had to go through the questioning of, who my doctor was and all the details. When they came and got me, I was already 15 minutes apart in my contractions. So I was already in active labor.
Yep.
She checked me. She told me that I was 3 centimeters dilated. My contractions began to get closer and closer as the day went on. She checked me again, and she said she felt the baby's head, but I was still 3 centimeters after 6 hours of labor. Then she told me I had to be relieved from the hospital.
And so when they told you had to be released from the hospital, talk to me about the moment of conflict where you knew, because this is not your first child, this baby is coming. And they said, no, you have to leave. Talk to me about that conversation.
Pause right here for just a second. This is another part that's really important. Again, she has been in labor before. This isn't the first time that she was having a baby. So she knew what was happening. And it says something. It speaks to the fact of not being listened to, not being heard. When you go to the doctor, when you go to the hospital and you tell them that something is happening to me or something is wrong. What has happened here to Mercedes, this isn't a new, unique thing. This has been happening for a long time. In fact, you're also going to see the class element to this as well, because when we get into the part about Serena Williams went through something similar and she's rich. So this isn't just a class thing. This happens all across this country in medical facilities where they do not consider Black pain to be pain. So someone who already had a baby is telling you that they're in labor, and for the staff to tell her, go away, you got to leave, that means that number one, they didn't believe her, and number two, they didn't feel as though her pain was actually serious enough. Let's continue.
Yes, the nurse told me that I had to be discharged because I wasn't further along in my centimeters. And even though she could feel the baby head, I wasn't dilated more than 3 centimeters, but I know for a fact that had to be untrue because I couldn't feel her hand at that point when she checked me.
And Leon, you're there. You know that your wife is about to have this baby, and they say you've got to go. What's going through your mind?
When they said we had to go, I didn't want to be there. Like, I know we wasn't wanted. I was concerned about the safety of my wife and my child as they're saying that, even though I know my wife was in active labor. So I immediately, got myself together. I was very upset. But by God's grace, I was able to, keep a calm head and try to get my wife to the next location,
Well, the baby came before you got to that next location. Tell me about that, Leon.
That was a very stressful moment. I don't have any prior doctor experience. I no training. We in my truck, and it was just a very scary moment. I mean, I literally we was driving down the road, and I saw my wife. My wife is, pulling her pants down. She's like, "Babe, I gotta push. And as she's pulling her pants down, I see my child's head, and I was kind of freaking out at the moment, but I kind of gathered myself. And when I gathered myself, I literally kind of, I don't know. I just thought I needed to help. Like I literally kind of helped and put my fingers between my child's head, and I pulled as she pushed, and my baby came out.
Hmm.
So long story short, she ended up delivering the baby in the car. Now, luckily, she is okay and the baby is okay. But she should have never been turned away to begin with. When my mom had my sister, I still remember this because we're so far apart in age. When my mom went into labor with my sister, my dad was like, "Okay, time to go. And then just like got in the car and was like, zoom, zoom, zoom. And there was no call. They didn't call ahead to the doctor or anything like that. Like they just went to the hospital like the baby's coming now. Like, so the way that this woman was treated, and I want you to think about what the CEO of the hospital said. This phrase here, Effin pointed out, cultural competency. He said the staff has to be trained on that. Why do they need to be trained on that if they didn't do anything wrong? That's a nice way of saying the staff needs to be trained not to be racist. Isn't that crazy? But the CEO wanted to use nicer words, I guess to say. This is a problem. It's not just Mercedes. There was a friend of mine, they were in residency at the time. And they don't practice anymore, but they were in residency at the time. And I met them here when I first came to Boston. And they told me that they were teaching for a long time in med school that Black people don't feel pain, that our nerve endings are different, that our nerves in our body are different. So we don't feel pain. So if we say we're in pain, just ignore it. This was taught. That's a problem. So that should have never happened. If someone's having a baby, the last thing they should have to think about is, oh my gosh, where am I going to have the baby? I'm in labor right now. The last thing they should have to think about is, oh my gosh, we just got kicked out of the hospital. What am I going to do? They should solely be focused on delivering that baby. And I'm just thinking about all the extra stress that was added to that situation because they kicked them out of the hospital. People need to stand up and say something about this, damn it. Stand up. And it shouldn't just be this family doing interviews with different people. Where are all the politicians? Where are all the members of the Black Congressional Caucus? Why aren't they saying something about this? Chuck Schumer, you just went down to the floor and said, let's condemn a podcaster. Why you ain't saying nothing about this, Chuck? This has been a known issue in this country. Where's the bills for this? Where's the legislation for this? We'll go on a little bit more here, and then I want to show you the Serena Williams component to this.
And
so, Mercedes, how is the baby?
She's doing well now.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Kenan, let me bring you in here. You are their attorney. You and the Wellses have called for action and accountability. I said at the top of the show that the nurse and the doctor are out. Does that separation, because we don't know if they resigned or if they were fired, they didn't clarify there. Does that satisfy that for you?
So I think it's important that we speak with clarity. It would be a good thing that they let us know that they have been fired, terminated. It would be a good thing that they let us know that the individuals who inserted themselves as employees in this situation get terminated also. They have a culture problem. And what it is, the only thing they can do in terms of addressing that is to stamp out those people who participated in this, watched this happen, and did nothing. We're looking to meet with them, and we're glad that they finally reached out to us. We're looking forward to that meeting. We want to understand when they say they failed in various ways, we want them to tell us how they failed, because I want to mesh that with what we believe they failed to do and make sure that we're on the same page so that the policies can be changed so that this doesn't happen anymore.
Policy.
It was just either earlier this year or last year. It might have been earlier this year. No, I think it was last year that I reported about the nurse, the white nurse in the hospitals that was breaking the bones of Black babies. Does everybody remember that story? I know some people are new, but remember that story? And people have been giving warnings about her. People had been saying, like, look, she's hurt. I think this woman is hurting those babies. Listen, this is life or death. And this is what gets me about the whole equality thing. Because here's the thing. The reality is that people say, yeah, we're all equal. No, we're not all treated equal. We're not. So it drives me crazy when people say these things. How we're last, we're on the bottom. When something happens to us, you see all these reports that come out about missing children. Focus on who they can continue to look for and who they don't look for. That's one example. You had a nurse in a hospital that was breaking babies' bones, and they allowed that woman to continue to work there. She got multiple reports. And then this situation here with Mercedes. Now, for people to say, oh, maybe it's a class thing, maybe they thought they didn't have any money, I want to remind you what happened to Serena Williams. Serena Williams said she had to advocate to save her life after giving birth. So let's get into this here. And people are like, well, she's a celebrity. She's famous. She has a lot of money. No way this would happen to Serena Williams. It happens. Serena Williams described in her own words that she had life-threatening complications she faced while giving birth to her daughter and how she advocated to save her own life. At 40 years old, she gave birth to daughter Olympia. She had to have an emergency C-section. She talked about that in her book, Arrival Stories. Women share the experiences of becoming mothers. And I want you to see what she was saying here. In 2010, she learned that she had blood clots in her lungs. Clots that had not been caught in time could have killed me. Ever since then, I lived in fear of them returning. It wasn't a one-off. I'm at a high risk for blood clots. I asked the nurse, when do I start my heparin drip? Shouldn't I be on that now? She was referring to a drug that is delivered by IV that helps to prevent blood clots. The response was, well, we don't really know if that's what you need to be on right now. No one was listening to what I was saying. So this is important, right? The logic for not starting the blood thinners was that it could cause my C-section wound to bleed, which is true. Still, I felt it was important and kept pressing. All the while, I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't move at all, not my legs, not my back, nothing. Williams said at times she felt like she was dying. Let's go on here. Finally, the nurse called my doctor and she listened to me and insisted we check. I fought hard and I ended up getting a CAT scan. I'm so grateful to her. Lo and behold, I had blood clots in my lungs and they needed to insert a filter into my veins to break up the clot before it reached my heart. So this is very dangerous, obviously, right? Williams writes that she believes it was because she was heard and appropriately treated that her life was saved. Notice how she had to advocate for it. And then this part here. In the United States, Black women are nearly 3 times more likely to die during or after childbirth than their white counterparts. Many of these deaths are considered by experts to be preventable. Being heard and appropriately treated was the difference between life or death for me. I know those stats won't be different if the medical establishment listened to every Black woman's experience, or would be different if they listen to every experience. And you can see it here. The U.S. has the highest rate of maternal mortality among developed nations, with a growing and disproportionate impact on women of color. Black women are more likely than white, Asian, or Latina women to die from pregnancy-related complications, regardless of their education level or their income. And that's the point that I wanted to drive home right there. This is why I say, yes, class matters. But even within those classes, there are groups of people that are treated differently. And this is not something that can be ignored. I sincerely hope that Mercedes and her husband sue the damn hospital. I hope that's what happens, because they should sue. And hopefully that this happens to no one else again who comes to that hospital. That's actually insane. The CEO to say, oh, they need to be trained in cultural competency. The what? So we have a problem. We have a problem in this country. This story was a mask off moment for a lot of people. There were a number of people on social media saying, I can't believe this happened to this woman, but it's not the first time. Things like this have been happening. So I am grateful that this story went viral because it woke more people up. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Hey. Thank you, Unemployed Scholar. We need public accountability for genocide by colonialism against Black, Indigenous, and oppressed people in the United States and around the world. Watch 1982 Black Reparations Tribunal on November 29th. Thank you. And thank you for the super sticker, David. Thank you. Laura said, both of my grandchildren being Black denied care by the doctors because their mom not being present. And I felt like it was any excuse not to see them because they were Black. It made no sense. Thank you, Wasim. Chuck Schumer cares about Israel more than Americans. Shout out to Shannon Medina for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Shannon a big whoop, whoop. All right. And thank you, Wasim. Learn about the horror stories that Indigenous people deal with in Canadian healthcare system. And thank you, B1. Professor Black Truth doubled down on this Black infants and women's mortality on Moment of Truth number 972 and Moment of Truth number 974. Y'all check that out, family. Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, the stats don't lie. Like, that's the thing. I'm just like, people got to wake up. Got to wake up. We're making good time. All right. Let's move on to the next story. Dun, dun, dun. So I'm going to say this as nicely as possible, but we got to be clear here. Bill Maher is a pompous asshole. Bill Maher has a tendency to talk about issues, especially when they're issues involving foreign policy or they're issues that involve us little folk, those of us who are not millionaires or billionaires. He says a lot of things on his show that are just wrong, that are just blatantly wrong. And this time he got checked. He got checked by Killer Mike. Killer Mike is a rapper, an activist, an organizer, very much politically involved. At one point during the Bernie campaigns, he started this group called Black Guys for Bernie. So he is someone that has been in and around among the community, kind of grew up that way, as he explained it, to organize and get involved, to teach, to learn, etc. So he was on Bill Maher's show with Donna Brazile, Miss DNC herself. I don't know how this woman continues to get spotlights. The way this woman went about and admitted to, yeah, you know, we cheated a little bit here and there. I don't understand how this woman continues to get spotlights in these interviews. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But both of them were on Bill Maher's show. And Bill Maher decided to make some comments about Haiti and about Gaddafi. And instantly it shut down. Let's go ahead and bring this in here. Shout out to Case Study QB for doing the damn thing. And I'm so sorry, Case Study, that you had to listen to Bill. Listen to this.
Kill Gaddafi. We knocked him off the motherfucking
Sure,
face,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
All right, you're like, absolutely. But as a Black person, I saw slavery return to Libya. I saw a man who was willing to help Black people in their plight and their struggle by giving billions, ignored. I saw someone who wanted to unite Africa under one currency and have a potentially United States of Africa. And I know how dangerous that is to Europe and the United States. I saw that crushed. And as an American, I had to shut the fuck up, go with the Republic. But that's something, if I ever had a chance to talk to Obama, I'd really say,
so you see Gaddafi good guy.
I see Gaddafi has been Not as bad as they said. But I can't see any president I have as a good guy. I love Obama. The symbol of Obama is up in my motherfucking house. He's a black man. He became president, and he did more drone bombings than any other U.S. president before him.
This part right here. Let's start with Gaddafi, and then we'll get to Haiti. Gaddafi, one of the things that he wanted to do is that he wanted to move away from dependency on the West. Gaddafi had this idea of, what if all of us, like some of us, African countries, what if we came together and stopped relying on the West and kind of, came up with our own currency and just worked among each other, right? Kind of similar to what you're hearing about BRICS right now. The countries that are part of BRICS, and they're entertaining this idea of having their own currency and not depending on the West. I actually think that's a good idea. Problem is, the United States government doesn't feel that way. The United States government sees that as a threat because that would harm the US dollar. So what does the US government do? They have to come after Gaddafi or any other leader who wants to take this type of approach. But they have to sell it to the West. They have to sell it to us. So what they do is they tell you that this person is a dictator. In Gaddafi's case, they said that Gaddafi was killing his own people. If you guys pay attention, they use the same things over and over. This person is killing their own people. This person is a dictator. This person isn't allowing people to have religious freedom. This person is not willing to do trade with the US anymore, and that means we won't be able to sanction them, as Marco Rubio said, just blatantly out in the public. Because that's the reality. When countries move away from the US dollar, that means that the US can't sanction them because they're not using our dollar. So Gaddafi wanted to move away from that. So the US government and Obama, they killed him. Just one of the many leaders that they overthrown abroad. So after Gaddafi is taken out, next thing you know, there's slave trade in Libya. You can look at similarities with Saddam Hussein. The US government takes out Saddam Hussein. Actually, for that one, the excuse they used is that he had weapons of mass destruction, which was false. They come up with different reasons. They took out Saddam Hussein. Next thing you know, that gave rise to ISIS. So ultimately what happens is that the people in those countries are worse off after the overthrow of their leaders than they were before. But the US government doesn't care about that. They just don't want any other country to become a competitor in that way to the United States. This is why they keep going on and on about China. This is why they go on and on about Russia. They don't want that. There is a doctrine called the Wolfowitz Doctrine. This goes way back. And it basically says, in short, that no other power can rise or should be allowed to rise to be a competitor with the West. So that's what a lot of this is all about. Bill Maher, of course, he buys into a lot of the corporate media Western hoopla, doesn't do any research for himself. He's just a walking Western puppet. Doesn't look into what Gaddafi wanted to do and he was trying to do for the people in Libya. So he buys into a lot of that stuff. So I see someone as Bill Maher as a puppet. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if he knows the truth about some of these things, but he's playing the game because that's what he's paid to do. So Killer Mike is explaining to him that Obama killed all those kids in Libya. Yes, he did. He's explaining to him that, Gaddafi wasn't what they said that he was. So these kind of things are not supposed to be said on a show like Bill Maher's, but Killer Mike got it out, and he got it out fast enough. Now let's continue on. Wait, it gets better.
He and Hillary Clinton disturbed a country called Libya, in which you used to have a free house, free education, free, and now it's not free anymore. And there are people who look like me that aren't free. So as much as I love my republic,
it was a very repressive dictatorship.
I hear what you're saying. We're living.
So do you hear that? He said a repressive dictatorship. So Bill Maher repeats the lies of the West.
have a free house, free education, free, and now it's not free anymore. And there are people who look like me that aren't free. So as much as I love my republic,
You know, it was a very repressive dictatorship.
I hear what you're saying. We're living under one now. We ain't storming the fucking White House.
It was not. You know what?
There's ICE walking down American neighborhoods.
Okay, if you think that's the same as Libya,
I didn't say the
under
same.
Gaddafi,
I said
okay.
repressive.
But let's have some perspective.
If you look at older videos of Libya when Gaddafi was still in power, it looks a lot safer than it does now. A lot safer than it does now. The US government, they overthrow these leaders, they destroy these countries. They destroy them. And they don't care about the people there. You know, for the longest time, they used to use this phrase of the women and the children. That doesn't work anymore, so they come up with other excuses. They don't care about the women and the children. Hell, if Gaza is not an example of that, I don't know what to tell you. They don't care what happens to them after the fact. They want control and power. They want to be the dominant force. They want to police the entire world, and they will wreak havoc upon any country that they see is not going to go along with their agenda. And by the way, that agenda also includes the greater Israel. So everybody pay close attention to Northern Africa as well. I know we've been talking a lot about what's happening in the Middle East and the Arab countries and the greater Israel plan, but also pay attention to what's happening in Northern Africa, because there's unrest there as well. When we talked about Sudan and the genocide that's happening in Sudan, there's a gentleman, he came onto the show and he explained, well, that's also a part of the greater Israel plan. So the West is wreaking havoc all over the world. Bill Maher doesn't like what Killer Mike said here, but that's the truth. Bill Maher is just a rich puppet who sits behind this desk and does this show and gets a lot of money for it because he doesn't buck the system. Do people understand? He doesn't challenge power in any way. And that's why he gets to stay there. And he's paid to stay there.
Perspective.
All right.
I'm enjoying this.
Because it's very,
before y'all go smoke.
It's-
I'm enjoying this. I really like this.
it's very easy to lose.
And when the emails came out, the emails said essentially we were doing it for the French. Like, how long do the French get to fucking live off Haiti, Libya, West Africa? How long before you got to ante up what's in the Louvre?
The French are still living off Haiti?
Oh, yeah.
Do you see what I mean? This is what I mean. Like, Bill Maher does not know. A lot of times he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he comes across as this arrogant person. He always thinks he knows what he's talking about, but he doesn't. Yes, the French are still living off Haiti. And then you have Donna Brazil here, who, again, is blasphemy. This woman sat up there and told you, yes, we cheated. We did some things behind the scenes, the DNC. And yeah, you know, we really didn't want Bernie to get there. So we did this kind of stuff. And this woman is still given a platform till this day. She's still invited on the shows, and people just want to just push this aside and act like she didn't do what she did. It's shameful. It actually is. So let's get to the Haiti piece here. So again, like I said, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Ante up what's in the Louvre.
The French are still living off Haiti?
Oh, yeah.
Well, why can't they fix it then?
Why can't Haitians fix it?
No, the French. If the French are still involved.
There's no interest in color.
Don't
you read France Fanon? Do you read Wretched of the Earth? You know, you date enough black women to know this shit. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, the French.
You got to tell them at night.
The French pulled out of Haiti like in 1806.
No, what I'm saying though is Haiti has been punished since 1806. Frederick Douglass wrote about this too, for being an example that you can without colonizers. And to end colonization is going to take some form of violence. I think anyone who threatens colonies or the colonists are crushed. So whether Gaddafi was ultimately, in my eyes, good or bad,
I mean, the people who are
better than what they have now.
The people who have been repressing the people in Haiti for a very long time are not French.
Shit, me.
Once again, doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to show you this because we're going to break it down with data here. But let me put his face back up here because I'm talking about him right now. Just another pompous, arrogant asshole. Bill Maher, Haiti, I have to say this over and over again. One country in particular that has been through a lot of havoc, devastation, imperialism is Haiti. In my opinion, I believe that Haiti is still being punished because Haiti had a revolution. It was the Haitian Revolution, where Haitian slaves rose up and they won. And I feel like that is why Haiti till this day is still being punished, alongside with resources there as well. Because despite what people tell you, they'll say it's a third world country, but they won't tell you about all the resources that are there that the US stole and France stole. So yes, France is still living off of Haiti today. Just like France is still living off of Niger. We talked about this a year ago, that there's so much uranium in Niger, but most of it is going to France, not to the people in Niger. They're thieves. Emmanuel Macron, he's a thief. The West has been doing this. They steal. Let's go on.
Time are not French.
Shit, me.
They're other Haitians. You don't really.
They're Haitians that are put into
Papa
place.
Doc Duvalier
let's
was
not
French.
act like we don't put dictators into place.
Okay, but they're not French.
Yeah, I was about to say, we help them come to power.
They're not French. They're not Americans. They are Haitians.
So the benefit is.
But the U.S. puts them in that place. The U.S. put in a Western puppet in Haiti, just like they're trying to do with Venezuela right now. They want to overthrow Maduro to put in a puppet that they want, who is going to go along with their agenda and is also going to have some type of alliance with Israel, which they already told you. So Bill Maher, again, just ridiculous, just uneducated arrogance. And somehow this guy continues to have this show. And I wonder how Haitian Americans, anyone Haitian seeing this, I wonder how you feel right now. Imagine bringing up, but they had dictators and when the U.S., the United States government, has been stealing from your country for decades. When France has been stealing from your country, just siphoning off your resources while your people are living in poverty and the Western countries are getting fat and rich. Imagine that. Imagine this arrogance that this man has.
They're Haitians.
No benefits go to the French from Haiti anymore.
Tell me what. I'm not aware of that.
I'm just saying, Haiti still
tell me, what's going on?
As far as I know, Haiti's still sending money to France, that's all.
Sending money?
Falling apart. That's what I know.
Okay.
And we need to do more to help countries like Haiti.
He said sending money. Bill Maher said sending money after Killer Mike said, as far as I know, Haiti is still sending money to France. He said sending money. See, he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know that, yes, France is still living off of Haiti. We'll let Donna finish this up here.
Haiti's still sending money to France, that's all.
Sending money?
Falling apart. That's what I know.
Okay.
And we need to do more to help countries like Haiti, especially.
So what's to do more? I would say we need to reparate countries we've colonized. There's a payment to be made to help countries get. So we took Libya. What have we done to help their country become democratic and get back in a better state? What have we done to help Haiti do it? Haiti is the reason we got Louisiana and West of that. America really owes Haiti. We kicked the French's ass so bad, it was like, fuck this, we'll sell New Orleans. Y'all have the Saints, y'all have Donna.
I mean, you can stay mad at the past forever, but at some point you got to move forward and make things better in the future.
I'm not saying I want to move forward. I'm just saying put something in my pocket for your socket. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, let me have something for my move forward. That's how we do it for other nations.
And it's not even just about the past, because I want to show you something here. So Bill Maher's like, that's the past, just move forward and let it go. Let me ask you a question. Does Bill Maher let the Israel issue go? Because you see, especially ever since October 7th, when people bring this up on Bill Maher's show, does he let go of the Holocaust? Does he let go of any of those things? No, he don't. But when it comes to other group of people, Bill Maher wants you to let that go. See how that works? Let me show you something that Haiti has been doing for France. Shout out to Jay Scott. He's correct. Haiti had to pay billions in reparations to France to be able to interact with the rest of the global economy, and America has installed dictator after dictator since the early 1900s. You are an independent news site, yet you refuse to do any basic research on Black history. You can follow the money during the pandemic just fine, but somehow you're completely ignorant about this history. Seems like you are being intentionally ignorant, which would make you part of the problem. And he's responding to this account, Vigilant Fox. This is another one of those conservative accounts that is elevated by Elon Musk that continues to spread lies. Like, and Jay is right. When it came to the pandemic, when it came to that type of stuff, this account was on it. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the history of this, da da da. But when it comes to these issues, all of a sudden that account seems to not be able to do any research and doesn't know anything. And I really want to know who's behind these accounts. This one, Cat Tard, that Wall Street Apes, whatever. I really want to know who's behind these accounts, because you notice they never show their face. So that's who Jay is responding to, but you can see it here. This is from the United Nations. In an in-depth 2022 investigation by the New York Times, they found that Haiti's payments to France amounted to the modern equivalent of roughly $560 million. Had that money been retained in Haiti and invested domestically, it could have added more than $20 billion to the country's economy over time, according to some economists. So the French enslaved Haitians, and instead of France paying reparations to Haiti, Haiti has been paying reparations to France. That's facts, Bill Maher. Well, you want to just talk about the past? Okay, so let's take a look at the past. Let's talk about what Woodrow Wilson did to Haiti. You guys know about this? This is the U.S. occupation of Haiti. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Since Bill Maher seems to not know anything all of a sudden. 330 U.S. Marines were ordered to invade Haiti on July 28, 1915, following a coup and the lynching of Haitian President Jean Vibron Sam. This action by President Wilson would begin the 19-year-long occupation of the small island nation of Haiti, which had previously been independent for over 100 years. The Wilson's administration, I'm gonna make this bigger for you guys, if it'll let me. Okay. The Wilson's administration, the motivations for occupying Haiti were threefold. Haiti's location offered military advantages. The U.S. wanted to dominate the Haitian economy, and the U.S. could offer moral and social development to Haitians. The presence of the U.S. military in Haiti would deter European nations from intervening in the Western Hemisphere, as stated in the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. Unfortunately for Haiti, the timing of the occupation led to miscommunication, lack of direction, and hostility. The management of the intervention was pushed to the side when the U.S. joined World War I, and this negligence led to inquiries and investigations, as well as riots of 1918 to 1919. Let's go on a little bit more here. Overall, Haiti has benefited very little from U.S. occupation. The infrastructure accomplishments fell into disrepair. Haitian politics reverted back to the spoils system that had been so prevalent before 1915, and the occupation failed to establish Haiti as an economic and political power, which was the plan. During this occupation, you should know that the U.S. government also took over control of Haiti's banking. So when people point their fingers at Haiti and say they're poor, it's third world country, you need to make sure that you look at the history of what happened to Haiti. And then there's even more. Let's fast forward a little bit. Put Woodrow aside. Do we really want to go into what happened with the Red Cross scam after the earthquake? In search of the Red Cross, $500 million in Haiti relief. This money that just seemed to disappear very quickly, right? The Red Cross vowed to help Haitians rebuild, but after 5 years, the Red Cross legacy in Haiti is not new roads or schools or hundreds of new homes. It's difficult to know where all the money went. This was another one. Another one here. Money mismanaged. NPR and ProPublica went in search of the 500 million and found a string of poorly managed projects, questionable spending, and dubious claims of success, according to a review of hundreds of pages of the charity's internal documents and emails, as well as interviews with a dozen current and former officials. So Haiti has been destroyed in many different ways. This is one of the reasons why I tell you guys don't donate to the Red Cross. There's a difference between charity and mutual aid. Mutual aid is horizontal infrastructure. Charity is top down. And even in these charitable organizations, there's someone at the top and they're making a lot more money than the people working underneath them. They still can't tell you what happened to $500 million that was supposed to go to rebuild Haiti after that earthquake. So the Red Cross, the United States government, and France destroyed Haiti. Bill Maher would know that if he did research. But hell, Bill, you don't even realize how many homeless people are living right in Los Angeles because you don't venture over into other parts. So that goes to tell you how closed-minded and how shut out he is. I think that interview there with Killer Mike and Bill Maher it's a mask-off moment for Bill Maher, because I don't think he realized that Killer Mike knows a lot about history. Killer Mike isn't just a rapper. He's an activist. He's an organizer. And yes, he knows the history. So you got exposed, Bill. Bill. Exposed. Crazy times we're living in, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, someone just said it here too. Sir Knight said Killer Mike is that exactly. You know, I don't think Bill Maher knew exactly who he was about to talk to. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you, Wasim. Notice how there are Jewish-only hospitals, but no other religious groups or racial groups are allowed to have their own special health care. Interesting. Thank you, Kenman. Donna Brazil has a small brain. And thank you for this one as well. Donna Brazil, boo this, boo that, stupid woman. Thank you, David. God equipped Bill with the perfect instrument for looking down on the poor, his oversized nose. Thank you, Kenman. Bill Maher, many people have been colonized. The Palestinians are the only ones who never get over it. Yeah, he's terrible. Terrible, terrible guy. And thank you, Focus. Crazy, it seems like every time you get colonized, you have to send money to the colonizing country. Haiti has to send money to France. We have to send money to Israel. Makes you think, don't it? Makes you think. Let's go over to part 2 of Type Fancy, Corey. Thank you. All right, ladies and gents, if you haven't had a chance to do so, do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Thank you very much. We are moving on to the next story. And I told you guys I was going to start this, right? Okay. So we're going to get into a deep dive. This is part 1. Is the modern day Israel the biblical Israel? I can give you a short answer and say no. In this part of the deep dive, we're going to dive into Jacob. We're going to dive into what these borders are supposed to mean. And we're going to make our way up to when we get to the second part, which is this idea of the rapture. So I told you guys I wanted to break this down a little bit more so that people understand the game that is really being played. So let's get into this. Let's start off here with this article here from The Guardian. This article is a couple years old. This war is prophetically significant. Why U.S. evangelical Christians support Israel. Let's go ahead and dive in right about here. For those who are more familiar with the evangelical world, the vehemence of support has not been a surprise given the importance to evangelicals of an Israel inhabited by Jewish people. One main strand of evangelical theology holds that the return of Jews to the region starts the clock ticking on a 7-year Armageddon, after which Jesus Christ will return. To that end, the issue of Israel and Palestine has dominated sermons at evangelical churches over the past 2 Sundays, said Daniel Hummel. He's a historian of American religion and the author of the Covenant Brothers, Evangelical Jews, and the U.S.-Israel Relation. Let's jump down to this part right about here. Broadly speaking, some evangelicals believe that Jewish people returning to Israel following the 1917 Balfour Declaration, a British statement which called for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, was key to end times, when God will purge sinners and Jesus Christ will return. So let's start here. So the 1917 Balfour Doctrine, what people have to remember is before they decided that Palestine, this area, is going to be a home, a place for Jewish people, they looked at other countries. They looked at Uganda in Africa at one point. So keep this in mind. 2, the Israel that was created is a secular Israel. That is very important when we get to the biblical version of Israel and we compare it to the modern day one that we have today. Let's go on a little bit more here. John Hagee, an evangelical pastor and influential founder of Christians United for Israel, explained the prophecy to TBN networks in December 2022. God is getting ready to defend Israel in such a supernatural way. It's going to take the breath out of the lungs of the dictators on planet Earth, but we are living on the cusp of the greatest, most supernatural series of events the world has ever seen, ready or not. Hagee said, when Jewish people are present in Israel, the clock starts ticking on the rapture. What will come soon is the Antichrist and his 7-year empire that will be destroyed in the battle of Armageddon. Then Jesus Christ will set up his throne in the city of Jerusalem. He will establish a kingdom that will never end. That is coming from Hagee. But many of you have had questions over time, and that's why I really want to get into this, right? Number one, the Bible has many interpretations. So this is something that is interpreted, especially by evangelical Christians. If you would talk to people who are Catholic, they don't have the same belief about this rapture, etc., all this type of jazz. But one thing I want to point out is that when you talk about the Antichrist, first and foremost, how do you know that the Antichrist is an actual person? Because the Bible says things oftentimes that are meant in a spiritual sense, or however you may interpret that. We know that years in the Bible, for those of you who went to church, years or days can mean years, and years could mean, like 7 years could mean 7,000 years. This is why I continue to say that the Bible is open for interpretation. Now, all of this is important because if you know that the current Israel is a secular state, then the biblical message that is attached to this, it doesn't even fit. We're going to dive into this video here, which I think they did a really great job comparing the modern day Israel to what is actually in the Bible. And a lot of this starts with Jacob. Let's go ahead and dive in here.
Waving flags, fighting wars, shaping geopolitics. Was not the Israel the Bible spoke of, not the Israel that wrestled with God, not the Israel that wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, not the Israel that received the law at Sinai or the promises of the prophets. It looks the same in name, but not in nature. And if you stay with me, I'll show you through scripture why modern Israel is not biblical Israel, Ask any churchgoer today, any pastor, elder, Sunday school teacher, who is Israel? And almost instinctively, you'll hear the same answer. The Jewish people, the nation state established in 1948, a people with a long, painful history. Exile, pogroms, Holocaust, rebirth. They'll say, look, they returned to the land, just like prophecy said. Isn't that proof of God's faithfulness? It sounds convincing. It feels reverent. And above all, it sounds biblical. Genesis chapter 12 verses 3 gets quoted like a national anthem. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. It's on bumper stickers. It's in campaign speeches. It's tattooed on the conscience of Western Christianity. Politicians say it with conviction. Preachers shout it from pulpits. And donors, they write checks in the name of it. Because for decades, we've been told, to bless modern Israel is to bless God himself. But here's the question no one dares to ask. Is that promise still active in the way we think it is? Is Israel today the modern nation with tanks, jets, and a seat at the United Nations really the same Israel God spoke to 4,000 years ago? Or did God do something deeper, something unexpected, something new, something that doesn't fit into a map, but fits into a Messiah? Before the flags, before the wars, before the land was ever fought over, there was a man. His name was Jacob, a deceiver, a struggler, a man on the run until he wrestled with God himself. And in that divine midnight battle, God did something more than wound him. He renamed him. You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, because you have wrestled with God and with men, and you have prevailed. That
Pause here. So Israel was the name given to Jacob. So how did we go from the name given to Jacob to a physical place that is expelling and exterminating Palestinian people? Now, people who have read the Old Testament, like, they know this. A lot of people know this. By the way, Zionists know this. So for those of us who grew up in this is very important. Let's continue on. Starting with Jacob.
That's where it all began. Not with tanks or treaties, but with one man, limping, yet chosen. From him came 12 sons, 12 tribes, a family that would become a people, a nation born from a promise. God said to them, you will be my treasured possession among all peoples, a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. But there was a condition: obedience, faithfulness, justice, mercy. This wasn't a blank check. This was a covenant. And Israel, time and time again, broke it. They didn't just forget God, they rebelled against him. They bowed to idols made of stone. They sacrificed their children in fire. They traded righteousness for ritual. And they built temples while the poor starved outside their gates.
And remember, so basically that was supposed to be a priesthood. That whole, the 12 tribes, that was supposed to be a priesthood. They were supposed to obey and follow God. Again, where does that go from that to this nation state, which expels and kicks out Palestinian people? Does everybody see where we're going with this? The modern day Israel is not the biblical Israel. And then some people say, well, what about the geographical parts that's mentioned in the Bible? This is supposed to be a spiritual plane. And what has happened is that Zionists have taken this. And if you haven't watched my video, I did one before saying Christians are waking up. Go back and watch that video as well after you've seen this. Because one of the things that I brought up is, how do you even know that the version of the Bible that you're reading today is the correct one. There have been different versions of the Bible. There were, a number of people that worked together with King James to write that King James version of the Bible. You think they kept everything from the original one, whichever one that really was? And Zionists took this and used this as a way to pursue this greater Israel project. And what they do is they point back to, well, the Bible says that this is supposed to be the home for them, so this is what we have to do. But if you actually read the Bible, you would know it starts with this. Why don't they ever bring up Jacob? Why don't you ever hear Zionists say that, well, yeah, he named Jacob Israel? Why don't you hear them do that? Think about that. Let's go on a little bit more here.
So what did God do? He didn't abandon them. He didn't erase them. He sent prophets. Jeremiah weeping in the ruins. Isaiah crying out for justice. Amos condemning the wealthy who crush the poor. Hosea loving a faithless people like a groom loves a wayward bride. And through their voices, a new word began to echo. Remnant, a faithful few, a purified people. Not all of Israel, but a slice of it. The ones who still fear God, even when the nation forgot him. And with that word came a promise. Not a return to the old covenant, but the arrival of a new one. I will put my law within them, God said, and I will write it on their hearts. The future of Israel was no longer written in stone, but in spirit. Then Jesus came.
Does everybody get that part? In spirit. Now, let's get to the geographical part, because that's the one that people tend to bring up quite a bit. Did I not put that there? I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself, you guys. Oh, we have to fast forward in that. I'm sorry. That's my bad. That is the same video. Sorry, I had to fast forward. So let's fast forward here where we get to the geographical part, right about here.
1 verses 43, he turns to the religious leaders and says, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people who will bear its fruit. He doesn't say it will return to your descendants. He says it will go to another people. And who are they? Those who believe, those who follow, those in Christ. Galatians chapter 3 verses.
Right there. So let's go back a little bit more, because that part again is very important. So one of the things that I want to add is this, right? In the Bible, it also says that the only way to get to heaven is through him, is through Christ. So if we know that the modern day Israel is secular, and we know the Bible says the only way to get to heaven is through him, is through Jesus Christ, we got a problem here. And I just don't know why more people don't see this part. It is very important that you tell people and explain to people that Israel is a secular state, because they keep using that excuse of, well, we have to do this because the Bible says it's a secular state. So listen to this part. We'll start it right here from the beginning again. Listen to this.
All fulfilled. Prophets completed. But then he says something radical. In Matthew chapter 21 verses 43, he turns to the religious leaders and says, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people who will bear its fruit. He doesn't say it will return to your descendants. He says it will go to another people. And who are they? Those who believe, those who follow, those in Christ. Galatians chapter 3 verses 12.
Stop here. So it will be given to those who follow Jesus Christ. You have to believe. Those of us that went through Sunday school, we know this. We know that was one of the things to tell you, like, you have to believe. But what does that say about those who don't believe? Because if according to the Bible, if you don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, then you are not chosen. So we have a modern day Israel that is a secular state. We have the Bible that says that you have to believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. And those are the ones that are chosen. Then what is Israel today really about? We'll make our way to part 2, which we get into the rapture part. But everybody pay attention to this. I mean, honestly, I could stop right there because that really takes the mask off. If you grew up in the church, you guys know this, that if you don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, that is your way to heaven. That is your way. So if you don't believe that, Benjamin Netanyahu is secular. He don't believe that. Let's look at this part. Because these are the things that I think people really need to pay attention to. We'll go on a little bit more here. So he gets to Galatians chapter 3.
29 makes it clear. If you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. This is the new Israel, not one based on blood, but on belief, not on ancestry, but on allegiance to the Messiah.
That part is very important, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go back to it one more time. I'm sorry, I don't want to drive you crazy, but this is so important. Go to Galatians and listen to this.
Belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed.
Abraham's seed. So now, biblically, we are no longer talking about Abraham's children and just only Abraham's children. We are also talking about the people that believe. We're talking about believers. We're talking about people that believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. You are now a part of Abraham's seed. That is incredibly important because now it is no longer based on lineage. It is no longer based on, where you were born. Zionists know this. They've been fooling a lot of people. And some of the pastors, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Some of the pastors, they know it too. They're all in on it. Some of them, I think, just don't know. And they just following people who mentored them before. But some of them do know, and they're in on it. So say it with me, okay? Let's walk through this one more time. Once things changed, the Bible goes on to tell you that if you believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, then you are now a part of Abraham's seed, which means it's not a lineage-based thing. And if you are a part of Abraham's seed, then you, yes, have a ticket to heaven and you are a part of the chosen flock. This is the piece that a lot of people leave out. So the state of Israel that you see today, no, that is not the biblical Israel. Israel, we're talking about again as people who are followers of Jesus Christ. That's Israel. It's not this state that's set up that put people in this open air prison. It's not the West Bank. It's not what you see happening in the West Bank. It's not the ethnic cleansing. It's not the slaughter of Palestinian people. When the Balfour Doctrine was decided, they knew there was already people on that land. And they knew that the people would rise up and resist colonialism. Israel is a colonial project. The modern day Israel today is a colonial project. They knew that people would resist. So since they knew that, they said, we'll kill them as many as we can. We'll push them out. They become refugees. And then we will ourselves, with the West, we will create protection and a barrier for us, which became the Iron Dome. Because yes, naturally, if you go to someone's damn house, you try to drag them out of it, they're probably going to try to fight you back. a little bit more here. I told you we were going to do a little bit of Sunday school today.
And heirs according to the promise. This is the new Israel, not one based on blood, but on belief, not on ancestry, but on allegiance to the Messiah. In 1948, a new nation emerged. Israel, born after war, trauma, and political maneuvering. It was a monumental moment in history. But was it the fulfillment of biblical prophecy? Or was it the result of British colonial interests, European guilt, and geopolitical strategy? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The modern state of Israel is a political nation state. It has real people, real pain, real resilience. But it is not the same as biblical Israel. The biblical promises of covenant, of land, of restoration were always conditional, always spiritual, always pointing to Christ. And the New Testament affirms this over and over again. Romans chapter 9 verses 6 says, "For not all who are descended from Israel belong to Israel." Let that sink in.
Pause. Ding, 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 ding. Do we need to drop the beat? We might have to drop the beat. That part right there is very, very important. I'll just go back just a little bit and we're going to have to drop the beat. Let's go back to Romans.
Always conditional, always spiritual, always pointing to Christ. And the New Testament affirms this over and over again. Romans chapter 9 verses 6 says, "For not all who are descended from Israel belong to Israel."
Because if you don't believe, then you're not supposed to be. This is so important. Not all those who descended from Israel belong to Israel. We are gonna have to drop the freaking beat. Drop the beat. Dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat in the street. Woo! And that's the part that Zionists don't want you to know. Well, well, well. I'll let him finish this part here.
Let that sink in. Paul says something shocking in Galatians 6:16. So shocking, most never pause long enough to see it. He writes, "Peace and mercy to all who follow this rule, to the Israel of God." Wait, the Israel of God? Not the state of Israel, not the bloodline of Jacob, not a passport, a language, or a border, but a people defined by faith. Paul isn't being poetic. He's being prophetic. This isn't metaphor. This is identity. In Christ, the definition of Israel is not destroyed. It's fulfilled, upgraded, completed, transformed. The covenants? No longer ink on scrolls, but fire on hearts. The promises? No longer inherited by blood, but accessed by belief. Jew or Gentile, slave or free, male or female. The dividing wall, Paul says, is torn down, not by Caesar, not by Moses, but by a cross. No.
So, I'll be sure to, I should put the link to that video there in the chat. So Eric, can we share the link to that video in the chat so people can watch that as well on their own? So this is very important for people to see. And what I never understand, and this is the thing that really gets me, for people who grew up in the church, you know this, like, you know that what you were taught, and especially in the Bible, that you have to believe. So if you know the modern day Israel is a secular state, and if you know that Judaism does not believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, why are people falling for this BS? What we have now is this. Now we have this state of Israel, this modern state of Israel, which is not the biblical Israel. And we have our politicians basically just being taken around like lapdogs by Benjamin Netanyahu or whoever else they put in power. It can be anyone. So this was an interesting take on events here. Someone did this in DC. I thought it was really funny, but it's truth.
Going on a nice walk with my dog. Good boy.
Not to mute it because of the music, but you guys see this. So this is what we have. And it doesn't have to be Benjamin Netanyahu. They can put anyone else in that spot. But they are literally using the Bible. They are using the biblical Israel to justify the modern day Israel. And that is the lie. That is the lie. And they've been doing this for years. And all of this benefits foreign policy interest for the West, of course, for Israel. This is what it is. It doesn't matter what political party. That's just a facade. The foreign policy agenda is clear. And this is what we have. So the sooner people start to understand, and I gotta say, some of the evangelicals, they kind of brainwashed. So it can be hard to get through to some of them. But I think some people are starting to wake up, more so the younger people. But once people fully start to understand that the biblical Israel is not the same as the modern day Israel, then I think you can see more people wake up from the spell that they've been put under. Because that's what this really is. But you have, for those who do believe, you have a Bible either in your home or in front of you in the church. Like, yes, the preacher says one thing, but you got the Bible right there in front of you. You got the text, the literature right there. One of the other things I want to mention, and this is before we get into part 2. We're going to do part 2 next Sunday. We'll get into part 2 of this, which is the rapture part. Don't forget about what it says in, let me bring this up here because I actually tweeted about it because I was calling out Randy Fine and his disgusting self. Let me show you what it says here. And God, that guy is horrific. This part about the false prophets, right? So you can't just take the preacher's word for everything. You do have scripture right there in front of you that you can read as well. But always remember this. This is Matthew 7:15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. That's Matthew 7:15. Always remember that not every preacher is preaching the right thing. So that is part 1 of the Israel myth. We will get into part 2 next Sunday. All right, ladies and gents. And we got one more story. Yes, one more story. We got 2 more stories. I'm sorry. Let's get into Cockroach Man. We'll do Cockroach Man real quick. Quick shout out. I'll come back to that one. Let's get into Cockroach Man. Okay. So this is a weird story. I've heard some stories in my time and a lot of weird ones, but I think I've seen it all. I've never heard one as wild as this one. It appears that a man killed his property owner, and he says that he was told to do it. Not from a friend, not from an enemy, not from a person at all. He says a cockroach told him to do it. I kid you not. Let's go ahead and get into this story. What a doozy.
Man is behind bars this afternoon after deputies say he killed 2 people. Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputies responded to a home near Esleda and Entrada Bonita Street where they found 2 people shot to death. 2 children were also found in the home, both safe. Deputies say they made contact with Alexis Hernandez, who told police he was in the Marines. Hernandez told deputies he knew the 2 victims and believed one of them was stalking him. According to the criminal complaint, Hernandez got an encrypted message in a cockroach saying he needed to kill. The complaint states the 2 suspects took Hernandez to the back of the home, and that's where Hernandez shot and killed the victims. He is facing 2 counts of murder.
So, I have heard weirder stories before in my life, but this one is just really bizarre. But there's one thing about this story that stood out to me about the whole cockroach thing. This guy apparently really believes that a cockroach sent him a message telling him that he needed to kill these people. And then I looked a little bit further. And there's some key details from his past that I wonder if it contributed to this type of behavior. Obviously, this seems like a type of mental illness happening here. Let's get into the details. And there's one thing that really stood out. Again, New Mexico man accused of killing 2 victims tells police a cockroach told him to do it. His name is Alexis Hernandez. He's 25. He said he received that message from the cockroach. So let's get into this. This is crazy stuff, man. On Friday, November 7th, 10:27 p.m. Again, this is in New Mexico. There were reports of gunfire near 1400 block Entrada Bonita Southwest, I guess, per a Facebook post. When deputies arrived, they located 2 deceased males inside the residence with apparent gunshot wounds. 3 additional adults and young children were also found inside the home. The adults were detained for questioning, and the children were safely removed from the scene. The suspect has been identified as Alexis Hernandez, per an arrest warrant affidavit obtained by People magazine. So Alexis looked a little cuckoo. According to jail records seen by People, Hernandez, 25 years old, was booked into the Metropolitan Detention Center on Saturday morning, November 8th, and is facing 2 open counts of murder in the first-degree charges. After officers responded to the shooting on Friday, they were allegedly met by Hernandez at the front door, and he had a firearm on his waistband and a Marine Corps sabre on his hip. The arrest warrant affidavit filed at Bernalillo County Metropolitan Court stated, here's the part that really stood out. The Marine Corps, as you'll see further as we get into more information. So he was in the Marines. Now let's go back to the cockroach theory. This guy is obviously seeing and hearing things. And it kind of reminds me of some of these other military stories that we've talked about before on the show. A lot of them come out of Fort Bragg for whatever reason. But where these ex-soldiers seem to experience some type of, I don't know, some type of mental breakdown. Now, I don't know if he went to war or what. I don't know. But it's something that I've been noticing. And he was a Marine. So let's go on a little bit more here. Kill Your Gorgie said MK Cockroach. Oh, my God. Yes, Timothy McVeigh. Yes, Danny, Timothy McVeigh. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It goes on to say the suspect reportedly told officers he was in the Marines and had to do what he was told to do. This gets back to that mind control. Remember I was telling you about that? Eric says war will make you go crazy. Thank you, Saber. Thank you, Jenkins. But do you see what I mean? So he said he was in the Marines and he was told that he had to do what he had to do. He was detained and had allegedly said there were 2 bodies inside the property. This is apparently the cockroach that told him to do this. Gives you MK Ultra vibes. Let's go on here. Hernandez allegedly believed that the owner of the property had been stalking him by placing cameras in the lights, the document stated. He also heard creepy voices coming from the vents. Now, again, I'm willing to bet these things weren't happening, but he believed it was. So he believed that his landlord or the property owner was stalking him. He believed that there were voices coming from the vents, and he was a Marine. Let's go on a little bit more here. Officers discovered a deceased man with possible gunshot wounds in the front of the house after entering the residence, while a second man with an apparent stab wound was found in an attached apartment, according to the warrant. One of the victims was the owner of the property, the report stated, with the authorities adding that the suspect had confirmed he knew both of the deceased men. Hernandez said he'd been getting signs to kill the property owner. The document stated that the suspect had received an encrypted message in a cockroach because the property owner didn't like cockroaches. This message told Alexis he needed to kill him, adding that the suspect had allegedly been seeing signs all around him that he saw and couldn't ignore. So here we go. And we got to start asking these questions, you guys. He's 25 years old. From what I remember, for men, signs of schizophrenia can start in their early adulthood, 18, 19, 25 appears to be a little bit later. But what is happening in the military? Because he was a Marine, they have health and wellness checks. They have physicals they have to do. I don't know if they still do the body taping, but they used to do body taping in the military where like you have to have your measurements have to be under a certain, number in order to, not get flagged, etc. So there's that. And then also, like, the military has a lot of different services that are available to you. So I would imagine that if he was hearing voices or something like that while he was in the military, somebody would have noticed that, don't you think? But he was a Marine. So the question is, did he start hearing these voices while he was in the military, or did he start hearing them after? Or is he still a Marine? What is happening here? Let's go on a little bit more here. The suspect had previously brought a Glock handgun for protection. Goes on to say that he was afraid for his life. So this was a real fear that this guy had. Hernandez then allegedly shot the property owner in the head and the other man in the kitchen. He then allegedly shot the victims again after going back to his Honda Pilot to reload his gun. The suspect insisted he was not going to take the two children that were in the house or do anything to them. But he did say he knew the juveniles were in the property and that they'd seen him shoot the two victims. The BCSO said in their Facebook post, this is the BCSO homicide detectives, have taken over the investigation. Detectives are continuing to gather evidence and interview witnesses. Additional information, including identities of those involved, will be released once the next of kin notifications are complete and the investigation allows so. The sheriff's office didn't immediately respond for contact by people. So what happened to this guy? What could have happened to him for him to believe that, I'll make this smaller so you can see his picture, for him to believe that a cockroach was telling him to kill the property owner? And again, it makes you wonder what's going on in the military. Also, looking at his face, I don't know, maybe this is, it could be an acne situation, I don't know. But what happened to him? So Barron said, homeboy looks like he is in communion with demons. He looks, I don't know. Soul said the first episode of psychosis in mid-20s, 30s is not uncommon. And what I wonder is, sometimes they say there has to be a trigger. Sometimes there's a trigger that can set this off. And I wonder if his experience in the Marines is what triggered it. So I don't know what's going on. I do know with the military in particular, people are asking about drugs. I mean, they drug test in the military. Like I said, they do the physicals, all those types of things. I don't know how he would get away with that. So something happened. And I really didn't believe this story at first. Someone sent it to me and I was like, there's no way this happened. And I looked into it and I was like, oh my God, this is a real case. I don't know. But it's scary. It's concerning because he ultimately did believe that his life was in danger. And then there's the whole cockroach part. Kind of gives me MK Ultra vibes. I don't know. But it also makes me wonder what is happening in the military. Because I've seen some things and I've heard some things. My family was military. I've seen some things and I've heard some things. And I know, a number of people that have fought in combat. And when the ones who did come back, when they came back, they were not okay. So I don't know, man. But that's a wild ass story. Wild ass story. Serga said, don't join the military for the empire. There you go. Sophie said, it looks like someone has done something bad to him. So much scars on his face. Yeah. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. All right, ladies and gents, we have one more story, and that'll be it for me. This story here about Nick Fuentes versus Chuck Schumer. So, it's interesting how people can speed things up when it's something that they really want to focus on, right? So Chuck Schumer told you a while back in that interview with the New Yorker that his job is to make sure that the left remains pro-Israel. And we are seeing people also on the right move away from Israel. So Chuck Schumer decided to bring this to the floor. It's crazy, guys, that Nick Fuentes needs to be condemned. This was all happening at the same time. You had an Israeli who walked down the halls of Congress and left a threatening message on Rashida Tlaib's door. But Chuck Schumer won't talk about that. He wants to get into the Nick Fuentes situation. So listen to what he says here.
And finally, on anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism in America has reached a dangerous tipping point. Jewish Americans are facing threats, harassment, and violence at levels we have not seen in generations. And as I have said many times in this chamber, anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine. Where there's anti-Semitism, there lurks white supremacy and other pernicious forms of hate. Well, 3 days ago, the President of the United States declined to condemn Nick Fuentes' hateful views and defended Tucker Carlson's decision to give Fuentes a platform.
Pause right here. Because let me tell you what this is really all about. Okay. So Nick Fuentes doesn't hide who he is or how he feels about people. He'll tell you outright that he is racist. It's not like he's trying to be something that he's not. What I found interesting about this is that I feel as though this is really more about a push for censorship, a push for silencing people. And let me get into what I mean by that. Because here's the thing. We have the KKK in this country. Yes, we still do. We have neo-Nazi organizations in this country. Yep, we do. And through all these years that these groups have been around and still around, Chuck Schumer decides to take the opportunity to go after a podcaster. instead of going after organizations, some of which who still have power. Always pay attention to who people go after. One person or institutions and organizations. Everybody need to get ready with what's coming, right? So you don't have to listen to Nick Fuentes. You don't have to watch Nick Fuentes, etc. But I feel like whenever it comes to something that's about anti-Semitism, there always seems to be this sense of urgency to pass legislation and get it done, right? Because one of the first things that was said when I showed this video on Twitter, one of the first things that was said is people were like, where was this sense of urgency for the Black community? Chuck Schumer, again, said his job is to make sure that he keeps the left pro-Israel. So I want to caution people about applauding, deplatforming, and silencing of voices, because it's only a matter of time when it comes around on your side too. I remember when Donald Trump was kicked off of Twitter, he used to platform from Twitter, and a lot of people were cheering like, woo, woo, yeah, he's out of here. Get out of here. And then they started to come for people on the left. Then all of a sudden, left accounts started to get sensitive. And this is what I'm warning people, because this is where this is going to lead to. You think this is going to stop with Nick Fuentes? Who are they going to try to condemn next? Could be one of your favorite left commentators. You never know what this is coming. A lot of us have been very critical about Israel. So don't think that this just stops with Nick Fuentes. So let's continue.
The president was asked about his thoughts on the interview. He declined to condemn Nick Fuentes. That is disgusting. For Donald Trump to excuse and protect the spread of Nick Fuentes' ideology confirms what many of us have long said. White supremacy and anti-Semitism are taking deep roots, unfortunately, within the Republican Party. Just as we saw from the leaked texts.
Did everybody hear what party he said? Pay attention.
Taking deep roots, unfortunately, within the Republican Party.
So here we go, right? So once again, I want to be very clear about something. A lot of people that I talk to, like that I know that are like my friends and stuff like that, they don't even know who Nick Fuentes is. Chuck Schumer, by bringing this forward on the House, the Senate floor there, by bringing this forward, he's actually making Nick Fuentes more popular. So I always find it a little weird when I'm seeing a politician go after a podcaster he's not even on YouTube, who isn't even on YouTube. It gives me a little bit of pause, because I feel like they will start with Nick Fuentes and then they'll go after others. Remember, a lot of times the cancel stuff, a lot of times it started with someone on the right and then it made its way over to the left. We saw that again, like I said, when Trump was kicked off Twitter. But Chuck feels as though this is the urgent fight that needs to happen right now. This is more urgent than people having health care. So the guy who sat here and was not willing to stand up to Donald Trump, who caved to Donald Trump twice this year, it seems to be more urgent for him to take down and condemn Nick Fuentes. Does everybody see what's going on in this country? Meanwhile, people losing, not having the access to Obamacare, people, dealing with those subsidies with that particular situation. People don't have food. Americans are struggling economically, and he's focusing on a podcaster. And to that point, as I said before, if the issue is the racist remarks, why hasn't Chuck Schumer taken the power and the resources that he had and try to go after institutions that keep it in place? Let's continue.
Just as we saw from the leaked texts of young Republicans, just as we saw from text messages of administration officials, the Nick Fuentes saga on the right reveals that anti-Semitism and white supremacy have been growing with disturbing currency within the right wing and within the right wing of the Republican Party. But I know this is not true of everyone on the Republican side, especially not for many Republicans in this chamber. Therefore, I will soon lead a resolution here in the Senate rejecting Nick Fuentes and his white supremacist views, condemning Carlson's platforming of hate, and condemning anti-Semitism and white supremacy wherever and whenever it occurs.
So pay attention to that, whatever and whenever it occurs. What do you think that that means? That doesn't stop at Tucker Carlson having an interview with Nick Fuentes. That doesn't stop with Donald Trump not condemning Nick Fuentes' interview with Tucker Carlson. This is going to spread. So, like I said, notice what they will do urgently and what they won't do urgently. You got people right now in this country trying to figure out how they're going to be able to pay their bills. You got people right now in this country that have been laid off. Thousands of people have been laid off. Anybody keeping track of the numbers, the layoffs? But Chuck Schumer wants to make this an urgent priority. So you don't have to like Nick Fuentes. You ain't got to agree with Nick Fuentes. Cool. But once they come for him, they will come for others. He is just the first piece on the chessboard. And he's an easier target. After that, Tucker Carlson will probably be next.
In the coming days, I will work to grow support for my resolution so the Senate can take a clear stand against hatred and anti-Semitism. I hope my Republican colleagues will join me in this effort and co-sponsor this resolution. Calling out anti-Semitism should not be a partisan issue. In fact, when we refuse to condemn anti-Semitism, when we stay silent and fail to reject anti-Semitic rhetoric, when we normalize hateful figures spewing disgusting anti-Semitism, that is when anti-Semitism spreads throughout society like a poisonous wildfire. Americans don't want to see that happen, so my resolution will give every senator, every single senator, a chance to make an important stand against hatred. The country must see us unite and fight this awful form.
So where was this sense of urgency, Chuck, for you to bring some type of legislation forward for the anti-Blackness? Where was the sense of urgency? Do you see Chuck Schumer bringing forth any piece of legislation to advocate for Black pregnant women in the healthcare system? I mean, the best, I don't know, Chuck said a couple years ago, best he could do is put on kente cloth and kneel with Nancy Pelosi. So pay attention to who they prioritize and who they don't. A lot of people see this. They just don't want to admit it. Even some, like on the progressive side, don't want to admit this either. But the reality is this. Notice who he chose to prioritize. He said anti-Semitism and other forms of hatred. But it was just other forms of hatred was at the end. That wasn't the focus of this, and that's not the focus of this. Chuck looking out for Chuck. Chuck looking out for Israel, because as he said, that's his job. So I honestly think this is going to backfire. I think this is not going to work the way that Chuck Schumer believes it is going to, because the thing is, they're like, well, he's getting too much traction, so let's try to find a way to silence him. And this is just where they'll continue to grow with this. They'll try to silence you. Now, this is what Nick Fuentes said recently about the populist left and the populist right coming together. And this is another thing I think they don't like. I don't think it's just the rhetoric, the racist rhetoric. I don't think it's just that. I think it's a couple of things, but I think it's also this.
This is why I said the other night, why don't we have populist Republicans and populist Democrats that just solve problems? Just solve problems for Americans. And by the way, I am willing to compromise with the left, 100%. I'll work with anybody. I saw the track APAC people. It's some progressive woman and some progressive gay guy. I'd work with them on shutting down APAC in a second, in a heartbeat.
See? Miss Pamela said Chuck needs a project. People were coming for his seat. He does need a project. Does need a project. But they don't want this to happen either. It's not just about the racism. It's also that. Because the last thing that people like Chuck and others don't want to see, they do not want to see people on the left and the right come together over the Israel issue. Because if that happens, Israel is done. If evangelicals start coming together, like evangelicals on the right start coming together with people on the left over that issue, Israel is done. So Chuck said that the reason why he didn't endorse Zohran Mamdani is because he is considered to be a guardian for Israel. So pay attention to that when you see the policies that he pushes and the sense of urgency that he has when he pushes these policies. This seems to be an urgent thing for Chuck. I mean, for years, and not even just the George Floyd thing, but for years, we have been complaining within the Black community. We have been complaining about unarmed Black men being killed by the police for years. I didn't see Chuck rush down to the Senate floor to say, we have got to stop this rise and increase of shooting against unarmed Black men. Not with that sense of urgency. When George Floyd, the whole George Floyd thing happened, Chuck said, best I could do, put on kente cloth and kneel with Nancy Pelosi. Guardian of Israel is his name.
Same goes for Anna Kaspari and Cenk Uygur. They were in favor of democratic populism. They want to deliver health care. They want to deliver education. I would work with them in a second. In a second.
See, they don't like this. That's what they don't like. I'm telling you guys, they don't want us to come together. This is a freaking nightmare for people like Chuck Schumer and Ted Cruz. Holy crap. We got some people on the right and some people on the left agreeing on the Israel issue.
Zohran Mamdani all day. That's why I said we need to rethink and realign our politics based on what actually matters and what matters to us. We have to drop the wokeness, arguably on both sides. We have to drop the wokeness on the left, which is anti-white and obsessed with immigration, basically throwing the borders open. They have to get rid of the tone policing and language policing. And on the right, we can work together with the left. Maybe we have to let go of some of the cruelty and abuse directed at some of the marginalized communities on their side. It's true. There are marginal people. What else would you call a racial minority?
But Nick, that would have to obviously start with Nick Fuentes because you participated in a lot of that. So that is the reality. But the thing is, I'm trying to warn people about this because I saw people cheering Chuck Schumer on, and I'm just telling you, it starts with Nick Fuentes and then he comes after someone else on the left, or the Republican Party will do it. It can go back and forth. They bounce around, but we know this censorship game by now. Listen, I watched a number of people lose their shows on RT. I watch people get kicked off YouTube. There are a number of people that were in this space that are no longer in this space, and that's unfortunate. I've watched people get deplatformed. I've watched people get kicked off Twitter and X and all these types of things because they said the truth. And so I think we all need to be very clear about something here. You may not like Nick Fuentes. You may not like what he says, but if you cheer on them trying to condemn and remove someone that you don't like, it's only a matter of time before they come after someone you do like. So keep that in mind. Another thing that he said that I want to bring up as well, I'm not going to play this whole video because it's very long. He was asked about Kamala Harris, would things have been better if Kamala was in office? So listen to this.
Percent of issues. So since Trump's a shill, do you think Kamala would have been better? If Vance isn't the answer, is Newsom or Pritzker better for 28?
Gosh.
Do you think MTG or Massey be an upgrade over Trump? You call out problems, but never say who you think would actually do better.
Okay. You stop watching my show. Go watch something else. You're literally too stupid. How do you watch this show night after night? And the question is, but wouldn't Kamala have been worse? Like, how much more can we explain it? That mindset is how they keep us controlled. We are at war with Iran, but people think we won. That's the problem. There are no mass deportations. We are at war in the Middle East. We are at war in Ukraine, but Trump has legitimized it. Don't you understand? But, for you just can't think on those levels like that. For you, it's like, oh, well, the economy's better. Okay, but structurally, it's the same. The debt is $38 trillion. The deficit is $2 trillion.
I don't even see the economy better, to be honest with you, because like I said, and we were just doing the grocery shopping today, the prices are still increasing where I live. I don't know where everybody else is living, but the prices are still increasing where I am. So I don't even see the economy as being better.
The government is insolvent. Do you think that Trump's economy being a little better really changes anything? It doesn't. It doesn't change anything at all. And Trump is giving weapons to Ukraine. Yeah, he tried to win Russia over. It didn't work. Trump bombed Iran. Trump banned anti-Semites from coming into America. And people say, but Kamala would have been worse. Here's the difference. If Kamala won, half the country would not accept the results of the election. Half the country would believe the government is illegitimate. As the economy faltered and the wars got worse, people would turn on the government. Her approval rating would be like 25%. And that might have propelled actual change. What Trump does, even though it's slightly better, is he releases the pressure. He re-legitimizes the government, re-legitimizes the institutions, and all that does is it buys them more maneuverability.
It buys them more time. So this part is important, right? Because he was someone who did support Donald Trump during his first term, but then moved away from that. And I think what a lot of the alarm is, I don't think it's just the racist language. I do not believe that. Guys, I've been doing this long enough to know better. I don't think it's just that. I think another part of this is the fact that he has been able to move some people on the right, especially some of the younger people on the right, away from the traditional neocon interests of the Republican Party. That's a reality. And anyone who doesn't want to admit that, you're kidding yourself. That is a reality that Nick Fuentes has been able to move some of those people away from the traditional neocon Republican Party and even move some of them away from Donald Trump. And now he's starting to talk about the economic issues more, talking about this. Well, listen, these are the problems and these things need to be fixed. But he's telling you that Donald Trump is also a part of the problem. So Chuck Schumer, I don't know what the hell he's trying to do. Maybe trying to like buy himself a little bit more time because people want him out of there. I don't know. But in his guardianship for Israel, Chuck Schumer is basically saying, okay, let me come out there and let's get everybody to try to condemn Nick Fuentes. And the goal is to shut him down. And like I said, when it comes to free speech, you ain't got to like him. You don't have to agree with him. But shutting him down means shutting down other voices as well. Whether it's Tucker, whether it's Candace, like I said, they probably come after him next because he's the one who gave him the interview. And it's really funny because Nick Fuentes went on a number of shows. He went on Dave Smith's show. He went on Candace Owens' show. Does anybody find it strange that politicians only seem to call it out when he went on Tucker Carlson's show? What's different? Because I heard him say similar things on Dave Smith's show and Candace Owens' show. Well, what's the issue this time? So I feel as though they feel he's getting too much traction and they want to, let's nip a bud in that. Let's silence him. Let's censor him. Okay, who else do we have to come after? And watch it. This whole thing about, well, of course, it's not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel government. Give it a minute. Give it a minute or two before they say it is. So I do not approve of people being deplatformed, period. And I stand by that. And Chuck Schumer, what he is doing, I consider that to be dangerous. And in a sense, like I said, you do not have to listen to Nick Fuentes. But this is no different than when the ADL came after TikTok. We don't like what's being said. Shut it down. Shut it down. And then it's only a matter of time before they come after the left and do the same thing. Especially when it comes to the Israel issue. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party kind of work together. Chuck Schumer caved to Donald Trump twice. Nancy Pelosi told you a year ago she wanted a strong Republican Party. Do you think that Nancy Pelosi feels as though Nick Fuentes, his growth and the amount of influence that he has, do you think she feels though that is strengthening the Republican Party? No, she would probably say it's not. Why did the Democrats want a strong Republican Party? You should be worrying about your own. All of this to maintain the status quo and, of course, to protect Israel. That's what it's really about. Nick Fuentes has said a number of things. But out of all the things that Nick Fuentes said, if you notice when Chuck Schumer went to go read that piece of legislation, he was only focused on one particular group. He wasn't focused on all the rest of us. I didn't see Chuck Schumer say anything when he was reading that piece. I didn't see Chuck Schumer say anything about, oh, things that are said about Black people, the anti-Blackness. No. So that right there should tell you what it is. It's a uniparty. One ring to rule them all. So be very careful with this one, guys. Like I said, I get it. People don't like Nick Fuentes. They don't like what he said. I get that. But be very careful about cheering on censorship and deplatforming. Be careful about that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for me. Eric is going to come in and close out the show. And I will see you guys Tuesday evening.
One thing I was struck by with Fuentes was he was talking about Trump the way lefties often talk about Democrats.
Yeah.
Saying that, oh, they're just here to give you crumbs to let off steam. And so, that was really interesting. But the big thing is focus on the corruption. And, we need to have a movement that more people on the right come to, that's about the corruption and demands, right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Everybody pay attention to what's going on. Be very careful about calling for deplatforming and censoring people. Be careful about that.
It's on the 11 demands. Reject censorship.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you want to do an
announcement? Oh, crap. I forgot. Shoe balls. Yes. Guys, quick announcement. I forgot to tell everybody, so I do want to make sure you guys know. The documentary is doing really well on YouTube. But Scott and I right now, we're putting materials together to prepare to present to film festivals. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it before the end of December, because that's when the first deadlines start. So we really want to get this submitted before, I think one of them is January, but most of them like December, January. Anyway, long story short, when we start applying to the film festivals, I have to make that documentary on YouTube private. It can't be a public facing documentary when you're entering into the film festivals. So then once the film festivals are over, I can change the publication of it and make it public again. But if you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it before the end of December, because unfortunately, that's the thing with film festivals. It can't be public facing when we're applying for those film festivals. So I'll be sure to let people know via Substack too.
You can watch it tonight after this show.
Hey, but then it'll be back. It'll be back once the film festivals are over in 2026. It'll be back. We just can't have it public while we apply for those. So yeah.
All right. Watch it while you can. All right, we're going to let our Sabrina call it a night for this big Sunday show, and I'm going to just close things up here in terms of chats and things. Yeah, one of the so yeah, you always want to. One thing I always want to emphasize is you always want to be connecting the dots back to corruption, back to the real root cause of these things, with the billionaires and with the whole systemic problem. And if you want, I just wanted to plug here quickly. If you want to kind of information and articles on that, I always recommend the 11 Demand Substack, which I'll just show up here. There we go. If you go to 11demands.substack.com or just 11demands.org, and the articles in here talk about things like let me scroll down to the second one here. Talk about things like one reminded me of the fight they want us to have, and part of this stuff with Schumer and Fuentes is that's a fight they want us to have, right? Is Fuentes good or bad? And should he be censored? And we need to be fighting against censorship, but the biggest fight we need to have is about the system and about corruption and about how we just really can't afford to have billionaires, morally or economically or existentially, really. And it always comes down to interests. So make sure you catch this one. If you read nothing else on it, make sure you catch this one about two sets of interests. So that's on 11 Demands. Let me kick this back over. Here we are. And let's see while we're closing out here, what we got queued up in the chats. And some of these will go back to previous stories. Thanks for the super chat, Courtney. Wasn't the Red Cross connected to the Clinton administration at that point? At one point, I mean, the Red Cross has been around a long time, and certainly through the Clinton administration, there's certainly plenty of questions about it. It's another, all these things. I'll probably sound like a broken record here, but all these things can, connect back to government corruption, and these kind of systemic things. If we want to feel that that the Red Cross, can we believe in it? Or is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it operating correctly? Well, if you have a government that's not completely corrupt and a Congress that's not totally corrupt, then it's something a decorrupted Congress could take up, investigate it, look at the Red Cross, and maybe say, well, you need to fix it or tighten up the rules or replace it with something better or whatnot. When you have a completely corrupted government in Congress, then we're just kind of screwed all around. So that's why I always bring it back to that. Thanks, Magic 818100 for becoming a YouTube member, a member on YouTube, I should say. And thanks to the super chat, Twid. Research Deuteronomy 28th chapter, the true chosen are the Negroes who were put on ships and placed under curses. Okay, thanks for that. And thanks for this, Davida. Tell the truth, shame the devil, preach Sabby. Yeah, we had Sabby Sunday School today. And thanks for this super chat, RM Guest, who says, I don't think the Bible was ever meant to be an historical document. And thanks for this one, Sammy, who says, love your show, sweetie. Greetings from Denmark. Cool. We always like hearing from and about the international audience. And it's a pretty wild to think about people watching from all over the world. And of course, we and Sabby, we appreciate all of you. Thanks for the super sticker, Dust and Descent. Appreciate that. And thanks for the super chat, Alcus says, He had a Joe Dirt moment. Do you remember that movie? And thanks for this one. Focus. It says it was all the crayons he ate. Over time, it can cause Marines further brain damage. Yeah, I hear that's a running joke with the Marines and eating the crayons. And thanks for this one, Courtney Smith. I've watched Nick's take on MAGA, Zionists, and the state of Israel. I kind of don't like to admit it in public, but Nick's been spitting on those issues. Yeah, I just think it's evidence that a movement with clear demands with a focus on corruption could really go places. If you keep bringing it back to that corruption, when people hear that, right, when you say our government's corrupt, right, like just 99% of people say, oh yeah, it's corrupt. Well, let's organize around doing something about that. And thanks for the super chat, Ira. Fuentes Fuentes also just recently said the left and the right should team up against Israel. That's what really got the Zionists shook. Yep. And just think how much they'll all get shook if we say, let's organize against the billionaires and against corruption. All right, and thanks for this super chat. William Ellick, who says, Trump was able to con or brainwash so many people to allow all this tyranny. Look how much freedom, rights, and privacy we lost, and nobody cares. Why? I mean, I would say one reason is because they have us doing these red-blue fights, and Trump con people, yeah, and we've had plenty of Democratic presidents and leaders who have conned people, and so it's time to have clear demands and to really have a focus on that corruption. And I noticed this comment too from MMMA. Yeah. Anyways, who said noted free speech is only for the rich. And I thought that was a really good kind of apropos comment. The billionaires have all the freedom they want and all the free speech and all that kind of stuff that they want. And it's time that the 99% really get where they figure out who their true enemy is and where the real fight is, and and let's work on how we can organize around clear demands and into a real movement. But we'll be talking about stuff like that and more in the future as we move forward with shows. Is what I get from commenting at the chat. It's distracting, but anyways, that's going to do it for tonight. You can catch Sabby live next on, let's see, it's Sunday, so next show will be Tuesday. Sabby will be taking Thanksgiving off, so I'd say watch her on Tuesday while you can, and then she'd be back on the next Sunday. But we are the show is going to take Thanksgiving off, as you probably shouldn't be surprised about. But yeah, catch us then. That'll be Tuesday, 7 p.m. You can see what we have for you then. And that's going to do us here. And until then, have a good night and keep up that fight. We'll see you next time.